Hey you, kid with a crappy wheelchair.
Welcome to 64K. Hosted by Bastich B.
Hey, Bastich B with 64K, and welcome to episode 2 of the Zine-Files. Hi, and welcome back. Today's magazine I'm going to cover is C+VG number 112, March 1991. Now, the reason why I chose another issue of C+VG is because I like games from all different formats, all different genres. I like a little bit of everything. So this magazine, again, it just appeals to me to cover. It's got so much content in here for so many different consoles and computers. It's fantastic. I was going to go in a different direction and just do a console magazine next, but whatever reason, I was looking through all my stuff and this one just caught my eye. So we're going to go through this one. I promise a console exclusive one for the next episode. But anyway, let's check out this issue of C+VG. So we've got C+VG issue number 112, March 1991. This is about a year after the previous magazine. And on the main cover there we got Poison from Final Fight. She's one of the gang members. And to her right you got Super Monaco Grand Prix. That was the conversion by US Gold to home computer formats. We'll check that out pretty soon. Also, other notable games reviewed in this mag is Super Mario World and TURRICAN 2, amongst many others. As I pointed out before, the reason why I love this magazine so much is if you look at the top, the formats that it's covered, it just can't be beaten. It's just fantastic. You got everything. You got Amiga, Mega Drive, Atari ST, Super Famicom, Commodore 64, Sega. I'm assuming they're talking about Master System. Spectrum, Sega, okay. Game Gear or Arcade, I'm guessing. Amstrad, PC Engine, which is TurboGrafx, Classic PC, and Nintendo, which is everything Nintendo, I guess. But this is also a new revamped issue. They got on a new look. Everything looks nice and brighter and updated, so the magazine is definitely for the better. So let's go over to the first page. And just like any UK magazine at the time, when you open it up, the first page is a massive double spread for Ocean Software. They were in their prime at this point. They were still doing massive arcade conversions, like the first one, Knock there, that crazy just run and gun, kill everybody, steal everything game. And they were also doing massive movie licenses still. You got RoboCop 2. I like the tagline, more than a game, RoboCop 2 is the prime directive. Pretty dramatic. Then you got Total Recall. I remember playing the C64 version of that. It was okay, I guess. The NES version is 10,000 times worse, so probably avoid both of those, to be honest. Chase HQ 2, Special Criminal Investigations. That was a pretty cool arcade game. I played the Commodore one also. It was okay. It was pretty decent, actually. And then last but not least, you got Pang, the excellent arcade game where you shoot balloons. It sounds garbage, but it's so addictive and fun. I played that a lot in the arcade back in the day, and the home version's supposed to be pretty good. Okay, good old contents page, nothing much to say here, we're going to get to everything anyway. This page, this is pretty interesting. So on your right you got an advert for Billy the Kid by Ocean Software. Now the reason why I want to point this out is that Ocean, they weren't really very well known at this point for making original games. So anything that wasn't a movie license or an arcade game was kind of unique for them. This game came out on the Commodore Amiga and Atari ST also only, so it's kind of a bit of an oddity. It's a very cool game, very underrated, hidden gem for sure. You should definitely check it out. The thing is, I kind of find this really weird that this is released right now in 1991 or right then and there, because the movie Young Guns 2 came out in 1990. And for Ocean not to have licensed that game seems pretty odd to me, because they license freaking everything. My guess is, and this is complete conjecture on my part, is that maybe they threw in their hat for the Young Guns 2 license to make a game, and the producers maybe said no, and nobody ended up making a game for that. Anyway, and Ocean were like, screw you, I'm just gonna make our own Billy the Kid game anyway. And maybe that happened, maybe it didn't. I'm just saying the timing is pretty good. And yeah, they made a Billy the Kid game, so you should definitely check it out. So on the left we got CNVG's new scoring system. They go through and tell you everything about all the new changes, but more importantly on the right we got an advert for Back to the Future 3, which was this, I'm pretty sure this game came out in 91. Anyway, it was made by ImageWorks. I think it was programmed by Probe Software, I may be wrong. I played this game on my C64 originally. I really liked it. I also played it again later, a few years later, when I played it on my Sega Mega Drive. It's even a better version of that. And I know this game gets a lot of flack for being too difficult and unfair. I kind of like it. I don't really care. I enjoyed the game. I thought it did some good adaptation of the movie. And as per movie license fare, it's made up of a whole bunch of mini games taken from the most important scenes in the actual movie. Fantastic movie. I think it's a good game. So yeah. And now we got the CNVG news section. This is always one of my favorite parts of the magazine. You get to see all the up and coming games. In the bottom left there you got Battletoads, the impending NES release of that game, made by Rare. It was an excellent game. Great scrolling beat 'em up, pretty hard, unforgivingly hard. And then next to that, on the bottom there, you got Dungeon Master-ish. So they were just talking about all the upcoming releases of those good old dungeon crawler games that are coming out on the PC. After Dungeon Master was a massive hit, they had Eye of the Beholder was coming out, but they also mentioned Might and Magic 2, which is pictured there. That was a great RPG, but a little blab about what the guy says. He says you're going to need a PC, a 386 PC with VGA graphics to play this thing, and that's going to set you back £2,000. Whoa. Yeah, I know. People don't realize old PC gaming, PCs were super expensive back in the day, especially high-end ones, so to be able to play Might and Magic 2 at that time, that's kind of what it had to cost you. That's crazy. Anyway, next to the right you got a little blab about Sonic the Hedgehog, which just hadn't been released yet. It was almost time for that sucker to be unleashed on the world. They describe it as a jumpy game in the Mario mold with an astonishing tones of speed and great music. Yep, that pretty much sums up Sonic the Hedgehog pretty well actually. And then in the bottom right you got the impending release of Sherlock Holmes on the TurboGrafx CD. I played that game on my Sega CD. It's like an FMV detective game. I really like it. Some people hate it. It's a cool game. That's pretty interesting. And the news just keeps on coming with this issue. Anyway, we got, surprise surprise, the announcement of the Terminator 2 game. Guess who got the license? Ocean. Yeah, no surprise there. It should be noted that Ocean did their own version of Terminator 2, and the Nintendo versions were made by LJN, which they also mention here. They are two completely different games. If you've only played one of them, you're missing out on the other. In my opinion, the computer versions are much better than the NES one. And below that, you got Compilation Chaos. This was talking about System 3. They were a prolific 8-bit computer games company, and they were about to release this massive compilation which has some fantastic games. If you're a Spectrum, Amstrad or Commodore 64 fan, you'll know these games and you'll be like drooling at this release. They were Myth, Vendetta, Flimbo's Quest and The Last Ninja Remix. That's 4 absolutely brilliant games. And there on your right you got an advert for 4D Boxing made by DSR, and that came out on the PC, Amiga and Atari ST. I never got a chance to ever play this game. I always saw it advertised. Of note, it was made by DSR, Distinctive Software, and I recently did a Commodore 64 racing game top 10, and a whole bunch of their games were featured in there because they made some excellent like arcade simulations like Grand Prix Circuit, Test Drive and The Cycles, amongst many others. And of note in this advert, which I think is the most hilarious thing ever, there's a quote, and the quote says, "This is the best game I have ever played." And then below that it says, "Don Matrick, president of Distinctive Software." Okay, if you're gonna get your president to make the quote on the thing, you know, I don't think that counts as advertising. Of course he's gonna say it's great, whether it's garbage or not. Anyway, as far as I know, this is supposed to actually be a really good game, so pretty much after this I am going to check this game out. Okay, another freaking page of CNVG news. In the top left we got push button action. That's just showing these weird massive cartridge things that go into a Genesis or Mega Drive or a NES slot, and you can put like up to 10 cartridges in there and then just press the button instead of taking it in and out. I don't see the point of this. It's super lazy. If that's that kind of your thing, you want to like put every single cartridge you own in the thing all at once and then just press a button, sure. It just seems a little bit pointless. But anyway, below that you got the Super Mario phone. That looks like the worst piece of Nintendo merchandising I've ever seen. It's supposed to be a telephone. I just don't see how that thing's supposed to work. It looks just bizarre. And to your right you got Fists of Fury Edition 2 by Virgin Games. This is one of these compilation things that European computer gaming scene, you used to get tons of these compilations, and they were always really awesome. They were very, very common back then. Nowadays they're not so common. Anyway, this compilation was available for Spectrum, Commodore 64, Amstrad, Atari ST, and Amiga. So this one's got Dynamite Ducks, which is an awesome Sega arcade game. And below that you got Shinobi, also based on a Sega arcade game. Excellent game, absolutely love it. The arcade was fantastic. I played the Commodore 64 version, that was excellent as well. I also played this game on the Master System and it was pretty good too. So yeah, Shinobi. Below that you got the Ninja Warriors by Taito. Well, the original arcade game anyway. I played that in the arcade as well. I was never a crazy fan of that game. I thought it was okay. The home conversions were mediocre as far as I remember. I remember playing like the Commodore one and I was like, meh. And below that you got Double Dragon 2, The Revenge. Anyway, I did a recent Let's Play a Series episode on this where I play through the whole series. So if you want to check out Double Dragon 2 and everything about the series, you should check out that video. It came out a few weeks earlier here. And yeah, this is overall though, this is a really cool compilation. Okay, and we finally get to a review in this magazine, and it's for the Famicom Final Fight. Yeah, no, this is actually the Super Famicom, the Japanese Super NES basically. And C+VG are a little bit loose on their terminology when it comes to consoles. Often they would just put Sega in the top corner, and you know, seeing as the Master System and the Mega Drive were out at this time, it's a little bit confusing. So yeah, C+VG, get your act together. Anyway, so if you don't know, this is a scrolling beat 'em up made by Capcom. Fantastic arcade game. It's like considered one of the best scrolling beat 'em ups. I think Streets of Rage 2 is the best, but whatever. This is a close second, or in most people's opinions, it's probably the number one. Either way, they're both freaking excellent. Now this Super Famicom version is far from perfect. If I remember correctly, I played this version a long time ago. I've never gone back to it after I played the Sega CD version. Yeah, you don't want to come back to this. But two of the characters from the arcade, Hagar and Cody, I think Gar was missing. So you can only choose two, and it's also got a level missing. I'm pretty sure it was the elevator ride with Relento. I might be wrong on that. It's been so long since I played this. And it also omits the two-player option. So Final Fight without two-player, even with all those shortcomings, this is still, considering it's 1991, this is still a freaking excellent conversion of an arcade game. Graphically and sound-wise, it's almost spot on. It's got things missing, and a level missing, and character missing. You know, it kind of reminds me of old 8-bit conversions of arcade games, you know, like say Commando for the C64. It's got a couple levels missing, but it manages to capture the look and sound of the arcade game so well, and the feel of it, that you really don't care. So even though this is a little bit butchered version of the arcade, it's still definitely worth checking out. I personally would go and try and find the Sega CD version of this. It's fantastic. It's not as colorful, but it's fully intact from the arcade. You got excellent audio, like a CD soundtrack, and Everything else is perfect. 2-player option, all the characters. So if you look to the left at the bottom there, you see C+VG gave Final Fight 92 overall. It's pretty damn high. And you know what? Considering there were no other versions of this out there at the time, I'm inclined to agree with them if you put yourself in 1991. And then if you look to your right, we got another advert for a bunch of 16-bit games for the Amiga, Atari ST, and IBM PC. As far as I can tell, these are re-releases. I'm just looking at the price there. It says £7.99. That's a little bit cheap for that kind of thing. And I know for certain that SDI is quite an old game. Even, I think that came out about 1986. Give or take a year, and it was originally released by Cinemaware, so that's definitely a re-release. So the other ones, Colorado, I don't remember exactly when they came out, but it's a freaking cool game. It's kind of like an action version of the Oregon Trail, kind of well known as a pretty good Amiga game. And Grid Runner, I'm assuming this is a remake of an old 8-bit game that came out on all 8-bit computers. It's like a shooting kind of game. It does look like this is a remake for the 16-bit computers. And there's the mailbag section where people wrote in letters to the guy Yob, was his name, and he would basically just trash you all right. he was a mean dude. Anyway, there's just one letter here I just want to quickly go over. It's called The Voice of Ignorance. This letter pretty much covers people's attitudes during this time in gaming, as far as who's got the best console kind of thing, which is kind of pointless because they all got their own merits. Anyway, so this guy writes, Dear Yob, Super Famicom, Super Mario Brothers contains the most amazing graphics. Large bull's udder. It looks like an NES game from the screenshots. So this guy was not impressed with their review. He said, send me £23 million or die. Okay. PSSS. I own a Mega Drive. Okay, so, and Yob's response is, tell me, Lee, have you actually seen Super Mario Bros. 4, or indeed any Super Famicom game in motion? Obviously not. Could it perhaps be that you're a Mega Drive owner who's jealous of a superior machine? That is, Super Mario Bros. Has got the most amazing graphics. So there. Now go away. Yeah, so this just covers the attitudes of gamers at the time. Everybody wanted to say that they had the best console. You know, whatever they bought was number one. You know, I had a Mega Drive, so I would have said that as well. Even though it's all just garbage in the end. All the consoles were pretty cool in their own right. So yeah, let's go on to the next thing. And nothing happening there. Yeah, we got another Sega arcade classic for Super Monaco Grand Prix. This was an excellent arcade game. If you ever had a chance to play it, it was fantastic. I think it came out about 1989. Anyway, so this conversion's done a few years later, 3 years later. And the original arcade only had the Monaco track, and then they did revisions. I think they did a revision in the arcade, I can't remember. But anyway, the Mega Drive version had like the complete Grand Prix thing, like I think 16 tracks. And this Amiga and Atari ST versions, they added a whole bunch of extra tracks. I think there were 4 or 5 of them or whatever, but it definitely wasn't the whole thing. And these guys seem to think this is a pretty good version of it. I never played either of these versions. It does look pretty good. The graphics and everything look really nice. It's done by Probe Software. Those guys made a lot of excellent 8 and 16-bit games. They were really good at racing games, so this fits into their genre. It was released by US Gold, and it scored 85 on the Amiga and 83 on the Atari ST, so pretty good scores overall. And on your left you got an advert for Shadow of the Beast on your Commodore 64. What? Yeah, so this was a conversion of the Psygnosis Classic, the Psygnosis Amiga Classic. And the conversion was done by Ocean to the Commodore. It was on the cartridge format, which made a big comeback in I think about 1990, maybe 89, 90. The cartridges made a comeback with that ill-fated C64 cartridge system. I can't even remember what that thing was called, to be honest. Anyway, and I never played the C64 version. I mean, I obviously played the Amiga version. Excellent graphics and sound. Game's not for everybody. It's really difficult.
and this one claims superlative graphics and sound, instant loading, unleash the power of your 64. If you've seen some video on this right now on this page, then that's me playing it. I don't know what I think of it because I'm not a time traveler, not yet anyway. Yeah, hopefully it's good. Maybe the graphics and that will give you some sort of indication. But yeah, it's pretty cool though that they converted it. Okay, so on your left you got another advert for an ocean game. It's Navy SEALs. Yeah, it's based on the movie. Obviously it's ocean. If you ever seen the movie, it's got Charlie Sheen, Michael Biehn, Bill Paxton. It's a pretty good cheese fest, good Friday night turn your brain off kind of flick. Anyway, the game, I played that on my Commodore 64, and it's very similar to the Untouchables game that Ocean made. I think a little bit earlier than this, it could be a year or two earlier. Anyway, if you've played the Untouchables game, the Navy SEALs game is pretty much exactly the same. It's like a side-scrolling action thing, jump around, shoot dudes. It was pretty good, the graphics were good and all that, I like the music, so it's a decent game. And on your right, you got Horror Zombies from the Crypt for the Amiga. I've never even seen this game ever. I've never had a chance to play it. They gave it 65 overall. They say it's kind of a mediocre side-scrolling action thing. Yeah, and then on your right, you got CU Amiga, an advert for the magazine. I think it stood for Commodore User Amiga. I think it was a spin-off of Commodore User Magazine. These magazines were awesome. They always used to come with demo discs. The older ones used to come with demo tapes, but anyway, this has got a demo disc, and on that thing you got playable demos of Nebulous 2 by Hewson and TURRICAN 2 by Rainbow Arts. That's some really cool games. Good times for Commodore Amiga users that month. Yeah, we got a double page advert for Super Monaco Grand Prix. We talked about it earlier. I do find it really bizarre that they did not even put one picture or screenshot of any of the conversions that they did. It's almost like they're trying to hide it, which is weird because the conversions were actually really good, so why not show them? But anyway, let's move on. And yeah, we have Bomberman for the PC Engine by Hudson Soft. They really liked it. Got 93 overall. It's really high. They say it works really well with the multiplayer, with the tap, you know, with the thing that you can connect multiple controllers to. You can have a massive like multiplayer fest. That's kind of the only way I really like to play Bomberman. Playing Bomberman single player to me just doesn't do it. But playing this thing multiplayer with this like chaos, is the more people the better. I think the more chaotic the game is, the more fun it is. I played Saturn Bomberman. We also used a tap on that and just went all crazy on it. It used to have hours and hours of fun. So yeah, this looks pretty good though. Okay, so on your left you got the Hollywood Collection. This is another one of these massive compilations that was released by Ocean. They just took a whole bunch of games that they released like a year or two earlier and re-released them again. So you got on your left Ghostbusters 2, which is pretty good. I played that on multiple systems. They got Indiana Jones and Last Crusade. I played that on my 64 and on my Mega Drive. The Mega Drive version is fantastic. I love it. Then you got RoboCop, the classic Ocean conversion of the arcade game, really good. And Batman, another one, another Ocean staple that pretty much gets bundled with everything. It's probably their most famous game. And then to the right you got Son of Dracula for the PC Engine. This is a pretty fun little side-scrolling action-adventure game. It's definitely an easy game for anybody that's interested in getting into the genre. You could definitely play this. I'm not sure really where you're going to find this game. I guess you'll have to get an import version. It's not very common, so it might be difficult to find it. Really nice graphics and music and everything. Yeah, it's a fun little game. And here we got Midwinter 2, The Flames of Freedom. This was released by Rainbird, and to me this game, you know, going back and looking at it, it's basically Far Cry, just like a really early version of it. You know, everything takes place on an island, you do missions, you get equipped up, you can drive in like vehicles and stuff. It's kind of like an old version of Far Cry, and it is an amazing game for the time, absolutely amazing. Graphics, the 3D graphics are pretty damn good, and if you're an Amiga owner or Atari ST owner, you just owe it to yourself to play this game. It's a must-have in your collection. And yeah, we've got another massively classic Amiga game by Rainbow Arts. It's TURRICAN 2, The Final Fight. Got a C+VG hit, like almost everything else in this magazine. I think they dish those things up way too generously, but you know, all the games that they have given it to kind of deserve it, so I don't know what to say. It just seems like they have a lot of them in their magazine. It got 94% overall, which is brilliant. This game is amazing, especially the Amiga version. It's definitely the best one. The graphics are fantastic. It's a side-scrolling shoot 'em up. Like, you run along, you blow the hell out of everything. Tons of weapons. This one also has like a side-scrolling like shoot 'em up stage where you jump in your little ship and you blow the hell out of everything, then jump back out and carry on foot. Great game. I think the music was by Chris Hillsback. Excellent, excellent game. A must-play for me, guys. And yeah, we got Gauntlet 3, The Final Quest. This is the home computer versions, released by US Gold. Yeah, this is a pretty cool game. And if you ever played the original Gauntlet, it's a top-down kind of dungeon crawler. This one took the point of view, it kind of has an isometric view instead of top-down, so it feels a little bit different. The gameplay is almost, yeah, pretty much Gauntlet, exactly the same. Go around, kill everything, collect stuff, and open doors, and whatever. If you look to the left, it's got all the original characters you can choose from, and then on the right there, it's got all those weird dudes. Those guys are also playable characters, so there was a hell of a lot more characters to choose from. The thing that's probably the most memorable for me about this game was the music. I just remember it being really, really good. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go download that now. Yeah, we have the Commodore 64 review for Creatures, which stands for Clyde Radcliffe exterminates all the unfriendly, repulsive, earth-ridden slime. And C+VG gave this a massive hit. It got 90% overall, which is fantastic. I absolutely love this game. I still got my original version of it. It's made by Thalamus. They made so many classic games, 8-bit games, it's ridiculous. This is just oozing quality. Graphics are fantastic. The music is just sublime. The gameplay is awesome. It's kind of like a side-scrolling kind of action game, I guess. You gotta rescue these little fuzzy-wuzzy things and get to the end of the level. There's like bonus stages where you gotta save these dudes from getting basically massacred in really horrible ways, and you got to like figure out some puzzles and try and get to them before the timer runs out. Those are absolutely brilliant. This game is just awesome, and if you're a Commodore 64 owner, you need to own this game. And yeah, we have an awesome double spread advert for Sega, and they're advertising their Sega Master System and Sega Mega Drive stuff. The bottom you got Castle of Illusion on the Master System and on the Mega Drive. Pretty cool game. I played the hell out of World of Illusion, which was a sequel where you got to play as Mickey and Donald at the same time. 2-player cooperative action. I thought that was a fantastic game. And in the middle there, to the right, you got Dick Tracy game. I never played that one, even though I'm a massive fan of the movie and absolutely nobody else is. I'm still gonna play it. Gotta get to that. And at the top you got Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, which is a side-scrolling action game. That was the second Mega Drive game I ever bought, and I absolutely loved it. I played it to death. It's got excellent music, you know, it's got covers of like Billie Jean and Smooth Criminal and a whole bunch of cool Jackson songs. Great game, great game. And yeah, we have a review for Super Mario World on the Super Famicom. So this game hadn't even been released in English yet. They were doing a review of the import version, and it got a C+VG hit, as to be expected. I am not gonna pretend that I've played this game on any level. I've messed around with it. Much more of a Sega guy than I ever could be a Nintendo guy. Having said that, this is a really, really good game from what I've played. Graphics and sound are pretty excellent. It's really clever. It's well designed. I can't say much more about it because, like I said, I've only played it like here and there, bits and pieces. I've never played through the whole thing. It's definitely a game worth checking out, especially if you're a Nintendo fan or even a side-scrolling platform fan of any kind. And you can see C+VG gave it 96% overall, which is pretty damn high. It's one of the highest ones I've ever seen. Does it deserve it? I don't really know. Like I said, I've messed around. It's up to you to decide whether it is. And on the right, we have an advert for some Mastertronic re-releases. Mastertronic did a budget line, and they re-released a whole bunch of games that came out a few years earlier on computers. These are all for the Amiga, Atari, Commodore 64, Spectrum, and Amstrad. And at the top you got Double Dragon. I found the computer versions of this to be all over the place. I recently did a series called Let's Play a Series, and covered all the Double Dragon franchise, including also the spin-off games and the movie and other crazy Double Dragon merchandise, so you could check that out. And below that you got Silkworm, which is an awesome side-scrolling shoot 'em up. I remember playing this in arcade a lot. You can, it's got an awesome two-player option where one person is the helicopter and the other person is the jeep, and it's just great cooperative shooting action. Below that you got Xenon. Out of all these games, this is the only one that wasn't an arcade game. I'm pretty sure this was originally an Amiga game. Anyway, it's pretty good. And below that you got Gemini Wing. It's just a standard shoot 'em up. I never really thought too much of that. And below that you got Continental Circus. Yes, it's a racing game and it's called Continental Circus. The only reason that is because the arcade manufacturer Taito in Japan, they screwed up their translation of the game, and the dudes put circus instead of circuit on all the arcade machines, and they couldn't go back on it, so all the decals were made, so they just had to change the name of the game to Continental Circus as well, and that's how they released it. And there was a racing game, and it was pretty decent. So on the left we got F-15 Strike Eagle by Microprose, the always reliable Microprose. Those guys made Gunship and F-19 Stealth Fighter amongst many others. This is an advert for their PC release of the game, which I also played back in the day, and I thought it was fantastic. It also came out on the Amiga and the Atari ST. And then on the right you got the good old cheat mode. This is where they have lots of cheats for games. It's a little bit misleading. It's not only cheats, it's kind of like solutions or tips on certain games, how to get past things. So it's a bit of a mix of cheating and helping. Okay, more tips and cheats. On the left we got a whole bunch of cheat fests there, but on your right you got a cool little guide for Lotus Spirit Turbo Challenge. This is like a little player's guide. It has a lot of like useful tips. I was just looking through it and I found this one which is pretty obvious, but it's actually quite clever. You know, if you choose your manual gearbox instead of automatic, always choose the option to turn off the music and choose sound effects instead, so you can hear when to change your gearbox. Yeah, that makes total sense. So just little funny little tips like that. I thought was pretty cool. Okay, and on your left you got Prince of Persia Player's Guide. Also, this is a really cool game if you've never played it. I played it on my friend's PC. He got a new PC in the early 90s, and this was the first game I think we played on it, and then we played Civilization next. But damn, this game was difficult. You can die at the drop of a hat, and these little tips are pretty useful. The one about swordplay, well used by us as well. It basically says just wait for the bad guys to come in range of you. Just stand completely still, wait for them to come to you, and then just stab them as they advance. And that's exactly what we used to do. We used to just wait for them to come and kill themselves. It's a good tactic. It works really well. A little bit later on it gets a bit sticky with that, but you can do that for a long time in that game, and it'll save you a lot of deaths. Okay, so on your left you got Railroad Tycoon by Microprose. This is another awesome Sid Meier game. This is, if you've ever watched the TV show Hell on Wheels, this is the video game of it basically. You know, trying to make the railroad out in the West and the US. It's excellent strategy, kind of business management, kind of everything kind of sim. It's fantastic. And on the right you'll notice you got the top 20 all formats chart, and if you notice the first three up there, you got Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. Yeah, I'm not even gonna discuss why it's called Heroes, but anyway. And you got the Commodore 64 version, the Spectrum version, and the Amstrad version, all taking the top spots in the top 20 all formats. That's pretty impressive considering this is still 1991. And if you notice at the bottom, the guy says, for the first time you've got Nintendo, Sega, and Game Boy titles that have reached the top 20. So the 8-bit computer, it was really strong in Europe and stuff, and it just wouldn't let go of those reins. Console games found it really hard to like break into the top 20 at this point, and they would slowly take over, but it's still pretty impressive that a Commodore 64 game was #1 selling game in the whole of England in 1991. Okay, so we'll just go through the #1s on each one of these formats. On the Amiga, you got Robocop 2, really cool game by Ocean. Atari ST, you got Lotus Spirit Turbo Challenge. I've played that on a lot of different formats. It's always a great game. Commodore, you got the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. Nintendo, you've also got the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. The Nintendo one's actually the original version. All the other ones are ports. Sega, which is a Sega Master System, you got pretty good conversion of Golden Axe there is number 1. The Spectrum, you got Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles again. At the top you got the PC Engine, which is TurboGrafx 16 if you don't know. You got the conversion of Outrun, supposed to be a decent conversion, never played it. Mega Drive, you got Mickey Mouse, which is Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusion. That's a pretty excellent game. And next you got the Amstrad down there, which also has Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. Those turtles, man, they just cleaned up the charts. And on the right you got Toki. That's an old arcade game. I played the hell out of it. This is a conversion of Ocean to home computer formats. I remember it being quite a good conversion, so you should definitely check that out if you like the arcade game. Okay, so a whole bunch of stuff that's useless to discuss. And on your right here we got advert for Ace magazine. This was also an all formats magazine. I read quite a few issues of this. I still have a couple of them actually. It was pretty good. It's not as good as C+VG. I thought it was still quite a good all formats mag though. It was good quality. And on the cover there they got Rise of the Dragon. If you've never played that, it's a game released by Sierra. I think it was made by Dynamics. It's an excellent cyberpunk adventure game on all computer formats, so you should definitely check that one out. It's also on Sega CD. Okay, if you look up in the left, it says Bite Size. They decided to do all these like little mini reviews for games, but there's too many games coming out, and a lot of the games on the 8-bit systems and even some of the 16-bit systems were kind of re-releases at this point. Operation Wolf there got a really good review. That's obviously a re-release for the Amstrad there, but on your right you got Speedball 2, which is a fantastic sports game, futuristic sports game made by the Bitmap brothers. I don't even like sports games. I generally detest them. But even I like Speedball 2, actually both of them, but Speedball 2 is just a fantastic game. Okay, on the top left you got the Commodore section. It's filled with budget stuff as well. There's a little picture of Firelord. That was a conversion of a Spectrum game. I played that back in the day. I never knew what the hell I was supposed to be doing because I had a bootleg, but it's an okay game. Spectrum also just full of re-releases down there, and to the right you got the Atari Lynx. They reviewed a whole bunch of games here. It's a really underrated system. It's a handheld system if you don't know. And they gave Rampage 60%. I don't know what the hell kind of review that is, but I thought there was a pretty well done conversion of an arcade game, and on the Lynx I think it played really well. Now we got the Mega Drive mini reviews. They gave Wonder Boy 3 67%. I don't know what about these mini reviews. I don't know who they're getting to go over them, but a lot of these games that are reviewed deserve a lot better than that. But Gain Ground, that's a really weird, unique game. I've never played anything like that. It's like you go from screen to screen just killing everything and trying to survive and exiting it. It's kind of a unique game if you want to try something different. Okay, and on the left you got Nintendo. That's NES, and they gave Mega Man 2 95%, which is excellent. I like that game. It's super annoying though. It's mega difficult. On your right you got PC games. Probably the most notable one here, actually there's a whole bunch of good ones, is Elvira. That's an excellent like kind of adventure puzzle game. What's cool about this page is that you got NES and PC on one page, and they're seen as equals. I don't know why people are so freaked out by like console gamers hate PC gamers hate console gamers now. It's all just a load of BS, you know. These games are all good. You should be trying out everything. No need for this separation nonsense. Let's just play some games, yo. Okay, so this page is the PC Engine or TurboGrafx 16. Got a bunch of cool stuff here. You got ST Dragon or Saint Dragon. That's how I used to call it. I'm not sure if that's correct. And Thunderblade, which didn't get a very good review at all. I'm not sure why. Again, I've never played these versions. I have limited exposure to TurboGrafx games. I've only played a few here and there. And you got a review for Outrun. They say it's really good graphics and sound. They say the PAL version, which is a European version, has some shaky graphics. I'm not sure about the NTSC version. Like I said, I've never played, well, I've hardly played any TurboGrafx games, just little bits here and there. I'm still interested to give it a go because playing Outrun on any system is always awesome. Yeah, so on the left we've got the Master System, and they got a review for Moonwalker, got 70%. They say it's a pretty decent conversion of the Mega Drive games, except the music is awful. The music on the Mega Drive game was obviously really cool. It was one of its best features. It's a bit of a pity. And Dick Tracy didn't get too much of a good review either. I haven't played that version of it, so can't really say. And on your right, you got the Atari ST, and I noticed they had the release of Crime Wave. If you've never played that, it's it's an awesome Narc ripoff. If you played Narc in the arcade, or running gun side scroller where you just shoot up everybody and steal drugs and money and just go mental. Anyway, so Crime Wave is a total Narc ripoff. It's made by Access Games, the guys that make the Tex Murphy games, so it's a pretty cool game. Yeah, I played it on my PC. Still got the original, and yeah, it got released on the Atari ST, and they gave it 85%, so yeah, check that one out. And yeah, we got a review for Solar Jetman for the NES, made by Rare, so you know it's gonna be good. This is based on the, well, this is kind of a sequel to the old Spectrum game. Yeah, this is a really cool game. It can be easily overlooked in the NES library, but you should definitely check it out. It's got, like, you fly around, it's got this cool physics kind of engine, and you picking up pieces of your ship, and a ship that you find, and you're picking up pieces of it to put it all back together, which you're going to fly it away and make some cash. They gave it 94%. I would definitely suggest checking this out as well. I think it's a really good forgotten NES game. Okay, on the right we got Revelation on the Amiga, got 80%. I'm not really into these kinds of puzzle games, so I've got nothing really to add here. So yeah, let's just move on. Yeah, there's Snake Rattle and Roll, another game made by Rare. They just made the Solar Jetman we saw previously. This is another hidden gem of a Rare game as well. I would recommend getting this as well, or at least trying it out. It may not be for everyone. I didn't really like it at first, but if you understand the mechanics, it actually is pretty cool. You go around as a snake and you eat these little beasties, and they kind of make you grow. And then you got to make it to the end of the level and jump on this weight thing that opens a special door, that kind of thing. It sounds total garbage, but it's actually pretty cool. The graphics are really nice. If you want to find an easier way to play this, if you don't have access to an NES or just can't find this game, you should check out the Rare Replay on Xbox One. That collection has Snake Rattle and Roll, and it also has Solar Jetman and a bunch of other excellent Rare games. And on the right we got Summer Camp, made by Thalamus, which is an awesome 8-bit company I really like. Anyway, this is for the Commodore 64. This game was quite good. I like the graphics and the music. This game reminded me a lot of Monty on the Run, if you ever played any of those games. They gave it 85%. They said it's really highly recommended. It's one of the full budget kind of new release Commodore 64 games. So this was still very late in the life cycle, so it's pretty cool to see this game come out by a big 8-bit company. Okay, and on the left we got a review for Pro Tennis Tour 2 by Ubisoft for the Amiga. I never had an Amiga at this point, so I never got to play any of these games, unfortunately. The first one's supposed to be really good. It got 80%, so it's actually pretty good, but they say it's definitely not as good as the first one. I find tennis games are one of the few sports games that I actually do like playing. Okay, so this is a bit of an interesting story if you didn't already know. Magical Flying Hat Turbo Adventure, what a mouthful, for the Mega Drive. It was later released, it came out in Japan in 1990, and then it was later re-released in the US and Europe. I think it came out in Europe also. It was known as Decapitac. I'm not sure if the European name was the same, but that's the North American name. That's the one I know. And it's a pretty good side-scrolling, like kind of action-adventure kind of platform game. Anyway, so it's based on this game, and they just changed all the sprites, they changed the music, and they changed the plot. So, you know, they pretty much changed the whole game, so I don't even know why they bothered. They should have just made a whole brand new game. Anyway, it's based on this with changed assets, but this one was actually based on another game called Psycho Fox that came out on the Sega Master System. I remember that game. That was a pretty fun little game. So this is based on that as well. So, you know, Psycho Fox, and then it got mutated into this thing, and then when it was re-released it got mutated into Decapitac. So yeah, a bit of lazy programming on all these guys' parts, don't you think? Yeah, so on the left we got an advert for Mean Machines. This was a very cool magazine as well that I used to read quite a lot. This one was a multi-format magazine, but multi-format only for consoles. any console related stuff or console systems really. It was cool, I really liked it. I remember them bringing out a Sega Mean Machines, or was it Mean Machines Sega? I think it was called Mean Machine Sega. I used to read the hell out of that because I'm a massive Sega fan, so that was also a cool mag. Okay, another section which I really used to love. This is Jazz's Arcade Action. This is rounding up all the upcoming arcade games that were about to be released, and some notable ones here quickly is Radmobile at the bottom. I love that game. It was one of those sit down things inside like a half a car kind of deal, and it bounced around, and the game was just crazy. It was from like a first person view inside your car. This game was later released on the Saturn. It was a Japanese only release. It was called Gale Racer, so if you're interested you can check that out on that format. And another massive game that came out was Mad Dog McCree. First time I ever saw this game, I was absolutely blown away. I couldn't believe it. I was shooting real people, and it was one of those massive laserdisc games that was streaming live video, and it was pretty flawless as to like when you shot dudes, and then it'll cut to the FMV of them flying and dying, and everything cut together really well, so it actually gave you a sense that you were in this movie, and it was really quite of a mind-blowing game to play at that sort of time, especially when you're looking at all the other stuff that came out. I absolutely love that game. I think it's great. It's a classic, and it's been released on a lot of different formats, so you can check it out on PC or Sega CD or whichever, and many others actually, so you can easily find that game. And this page, this double page, is just full of epicness. So on the left you got Gods, that was released on the Amiga and Atari ST, came out on a bunch of other systems later on. I've only ever played the Amiga version of this, and as far as I know it's supposed to be the best one. It is excellent. The music is just brilliant in this game, and so is the graphics. I know the console versions are not supposed to be as good as this one. Never played them. I can only speak about this one. This was also programmed by the Bitmap brothers. If you don't know who they are, they're the guys that made the excellent Speedball games. And on your right you got a preview for The Last Ninja 3 by System 3. Freaking excellent game. I'm a massive fan of this trilogy on the Commodore 64. This one came out on a cartridge, so it's pretty hard to find. I still don't even have a physical copy of this game. I've never owned one, which is super unfortunate because I'm a massive fan of this series. I got the first two games on cassette. I love them. I think they're classics. This third one, I think it's an excellent game as well. The graphics and music are fantastic. I just feel like if you did play the first two games, then by the time you played this game, there's really nothing gameplay wise that you haven't seen. It's pretty much the exact same gameplay from the first two, with just new graphics and music, which is not a bad thing, but it definitely didn't have that appeal to me as much as the first two. It's still a great game though, and I really want to try and get a cartridge version of this somehow, one day, maybe. Okay, so on your right you got a preview for Predator 2, released by Imageworks. This was a decent game. I had it on my Commodore. It was released for every single computer format at the time. This was, if you ever played the arcade game Dynamite Duke, then this is exact rip-off of that. It's just from behind your dude, and the screen just scrolls from left to right, and you shoot the hell out of everything. You shoot the hell out of like every single Jamaican dude you can possibly see, just like in the movie, and other street punks, and you collect different weapons and shoot the hell out of more people, and then the Predator jumps in every once in a while and he goes into like visible mode. You're gonna try to shoot him, and you know, I played this on my Commodore. Honestly, it's not a very memorable game. It's just monotonous. And this game is not to be confused with the Sega Genesis game. They also released their own Predator 2. It's a completely different game. That's like a top-down view. Also running around killing lots of punks and stuff and facing the Predator once in a while. Much better game. If you want to play a Predator 2 game, play that one rather than this one. This one's just average at best. Okay, so on your left you got a few previews there. And you got one for Pac-Mania coming out on the Sega Master System. I always thought this was a decent Pac-Man game. It's nothing great, it's not very memorable. It's from like a 3/4 point of view. You could do a few like interesting things like jump over the ghosts and stuff. Yeah, it was an okay game. And then bottom right you got Megalomania. This was a pretty cool kind of civilization game. It was released on the Amiga, ST, and PC. I played this about a year or two later. I don't remember exactly when it came out on the Mega Drive. and that game was horrible to control because you were using like a controller, and you should definitely play this game on Amiga or the PC, definitely. It's a hell of a lot better. And anyway, it's a pretty cool, like I said, a pretty cool like civilization kind of game. Build your civilizations, pit them against each other kind of deal. It's made by Sensible Software, the guys that made Whizballs, so you should definitely check that one out. Okay, nothing here. And merciful heavens, we've got to the final page, and this has an advert for Night Shift, where you play like a janitor dude who's trying to keep the production run going on all the Lucasfilm merchandise like Star Wars and Indiana Jones stuff. Keep making the little action figures and that, and you have to run around in the factory and try and make sure everything keep on going and setting all the right parameters for the machines. It's actually a fun little game. I played it on the Amiga. It's quite good. I never played it like extensively, so I've just screwed around with it a bit. But yeah, it's a nice little game. It's definitely unique. And that closes episode number 2 with issue 112 of C+VG.
Okay, thanks for joining me, Bastich B at 64K, for another episode of the Zine-Files. If you would like and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. And on that note, let's cut to credits.